selling the stock of airline companies, so betting on collapse. This is for people who trade in options, they know exactly, it's a put option on a stock. Now, with regard to war, to these killing people as a means to justify particular foreign policy initiatives, this is nothing new. There's the most well-documented case of this is a secret blueprint of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is called Operation Northwards. Now, Operation Northwards was a secret plan to blow up an airplane and to kill people in the Cuban community in Miami, and then blame it on Fidel Castro as a pretext to invade Cuba. Okay? It sounds, you could make a movie out of it, but it is actually that. Those documents have been declassified. They're available on our website, and actually we published an article in the magazine, in the first issue of the magazine. Operation Northwards was precisely that. It was to create civilian casualties, and I quote from the document, a useful wave of indignation would follow.
Obviously, France, Germany, Belgium are not stupid. They know what's going on. Why does the EU insist on expanding eastward, especially when Poland is over and over again referred to as America's Trojan horse in the EU? Do they see anything there? Do they think they can overcome America's influence over the Eastern European states? Or are they just going into the...
Well, you see, there are two processes taking place simultaneously. One is called European enlargement, which is the integration of new members into the European community and new associate members, okay, in which the countries of the former Soviet bloc of Eastern Europe are candidates for full membership in the European Union. And there's another process which is called NATO enlargement. And NATO enlargement is to bring these countries into the orbit of NATO, but mainly of the United States, in the form of military agreements and so on. And these two processes are, in a sense, competing with one another. I still think that Poland is really it's in the back door of Germany. It's not possible for the United States necessarily to establish itself in Poland, or let's say the Czech Republic, or the Slovak Republic, for that matter. The Balkans is a different matter. Croatia is in the German orbit, Montenegro, Serbia possibly in the orbit of Germany, Macedonia, Bulgaria, Albania are in the US orbit, and that has a lot to do with pipelines. So there's a struggle for territorial control. The euro is the currency in all those. The euro is being used as a proxy currency in the Balkans, in Eastern Europe. It's not being used, the dollar is being used in some of the former Soviet republics of the Caucasian region, Azerbaijan, Georgia, the Tajik Republic, and so on, where there's, if you look at the map that I put up initially, you'll see how the US military has expanded into that region.
And I was wondering if you would make, say, a comparison between what happened in that week and the Nazis setting fire to the German parliament.
It's much more sophisticated. There's that analogy has been made by many authors. And in fact, there have been other analogies. We've also drawn an analogy between 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Okay? We know it's documented that the United States knew that Pearl Harbor would be attacked. Okay? And they let it happen. It's somewhat different because it was still the Japanese Air Force that did the bombing. Okay? But they knew it, and we have intelligence documents to prove it. In the case of 9/11, we have so much information which the information doesn't necessarily tell us who did it, but the information refutes the official narrative in many ways. And it shows that there was cover-up and complicity of key members of the Bush administration. I'll give you another example. I mentioned the role of the General Mahmoud Ahmad. Okay? Now, if these guys didn't have anything to hide, how is it that when Condoleezza Rice had her press conference, which was held just in the wake of, you remember the May 16th press knew when the foreknowledge issue hit the tabloids? That was about a year and a half ago, in May of 2002. She gave a press conference, and then there was an Indian journalist who asked the question. He said, is it true that that the head of Pakistan's inter-services intelligence was in Washington at the time of the attacks and had meetings with you and other people, etc., etc.? Important piece of information. How come that sentence was withdrawn from the transcripts? I went through the audio transcripts and the video transcripts, and then I went through the written transcripts, and when they said, is it true that, and then blank inaudible was in Washington. It says, Dr. Rice, are you aware of the reports at the time that inaudible was in Washington on September 11, and $100,000 was wired to Pakistan, to this group here in this area? Okay? The money man behind 9/11. So that was inaudible. And then there was another I looked at the CNN transcript, and then I looked at the White House transcript, and they're both inaudible. Then I went to the original tapes, and I listened to them, and they're clear-cut, and I checked with a third transcript, the federal document system. They give the correct transcription. So what do they have to hide? Why are they hiding this information?
Why can you find these documents? If I was behind a mastermind like this and preparing such a long time since the Soviet-Afghani war to get to a solution at the end, I wouldn't want you to find this information.
Certainly the internet has provided us with information which we could never have dreamt of knowing about it 5 years ago. I mean, we'd have to go and spend a lifetime in libraries and doing interviews and so on. It would be impossible to get all this information and to patch it together. But then I think the reason is that most people who go on the internet don't do this kind of work. They go and, it's for entertainment or whatever, okay? And they don't scan 2,000 newspapers, okay? I can tell you, I scan 2,000 newspapers to get this kind of information. I use Lexis, which is a very sophisticated search engine, which most probably your university library has. And I suggest you use that, because the internet itself won't give you everything. But you can find this information. It's there. The thing is that the official statements and the media tell you everything you need to know, as long as you can cross it with other information and you can scan through it. The problem with the media is that they provide information and then they refute the information that they provide. Okay? In the same way as Dan Rather says, oh, I'm here in Rawalpindi, and Osama was here on the 10th. He was hospitalized for a kidney condition. But Dan Rather doesn't say, oh, Don Rumsfeld, you're a liar. Or he could have said it politely. It seems that this information refutes the statements of the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, who says that we can't find him. It's like looking for a needle in a stack of hay. But he would lose his job if he said that.
What I don't understand is, how could House of Representatives in the U.S., how could the Senate, all these different systems that were created by the civil services in U.S. Hundreds of years ago, which were, I believe that was based on true democracy back then. How could they ignore areas of the spectrum.
People in the U.S. Congress, on both sides of the House, know the information that I presented to you here. Some of them don't dismiss it, or they haven't analyzed it, but certainly the people who sit on the committees, they know. They know, the people who sit on the Intelligence Committee, the Armed Services Committee, they know about this. The thing is that we're not strictly dealing, we're dealing with the